As the traffic lights turn green, a man in his car suddenly turns blind. He describes it as swimming in milk. A man volunteers to drive him home and leaves after taking a look at his house. The first blind man's wife arrives, learning about his condition, and decides to take him to an eye specialist. They realize that the man stole their keys and car, so they take a taxi instead. In the doctor's office, the doctor tells him his eyes are fine and that they can't do anything about it today because he's never seen anything like it before. The doctor then sends him to the hospital for more tests, which frustrate the couple. Meanwhile, the thief sees a police car and decides to run through the closed road. As he ditches the car, he suddenly turns blind. Later, after checking a boy and sunglasses girl, who he flirts with, the doctor calls someone and asks for their take on the bizarre case he's been handed. At home, he tells his wife about the case and hypothesizes that it could be amaurosis, except it's all white, not black, and agnosia, a neurological condition where people don't recognize certain objects. The wife jokes about this, but he responds indifferently. She dismisses it and offers him wine instead. Later, the wife says goodnight to the doctor as he worked through the evening. Meanwhile, Sunglasses Girl goes to Hotel Emilio. There, she meets a guy and has sex with him, but doesn't remove her shades due to the doctor's orders. As they finish, she starts to see white. Meanwhile, Thief tells the policeman his wife lives in the apartment they're locking on. A woman opens it, but claims she doesn't know him. He becomes furious, but the policeman takes him away to help him. Later, Sunglasses Girl becomes blind and panics outside the hotel room as she's helped by security. At Doctor's house, Doctor wakes up and realizes he's blind and concludes the patient yesterday must have infected him. The wife tries to help him, but he panics and asks her to stay away, but she assures him she won't be infected. The doctor apologizes as his wife calms him down, and he calls the hospital. Around the city, more people become blind, and the doctor is then taken to an ambulance by people in hazmat suits, where the wife climbs in with him, pretending she's gone blind as well. The government announces its decision to quarantine people with a white sickness in a facility equipped with a telephone. In the ward, a fight suddenly breaks between the first blind man and Thief because of their already early infection, but doctor and wife stop them. Meanwhile, Sunglasses Girl comforts boy. Later, wife guides everyone in the facility. Thief pops a feel on Sunglasses Girl, so he hits him with her heel, making him bleed. As doctor and wife help him, they realize the wound might become infected soon. At night, wife tells doctor she's afraid she'll go blind during sleep, so she gets up for a walk. In the morning, new people arrive, count off, and introduce themselves. Two officers pass by the ward, so wife and doctor chase after them to fetch help for Thief. The officers threaten to shoot if they come near, so the couple then retreat. While the patients eat, wife sends a message through the telephone saying they don't have enough food and reminds the authorities of the medical kit. As time passes, the facility becomes more and more crowded and even more unhygienic. The wife becomes overwhelmed with responsibilities, and she's the only one who can see. While everyone bathes, wife sees Eye Patch Man hiding in a locker who asks for an extra bed in the ward in exchange for access to his radio. The wife accepts his request. Eye Patch Man shares what he knows about the epidemic. He shares that the disease has been spread around the world, and because of the increasing number of infected individuals, the government restored to more extreme measures. His news left everyone quiet, so Eye Patch Man turns to a music station on his radio. Later, authorities transfer more people to the already crowded facility. One man strays from his line and gets shot by an officer. This causes panic, and a stampede ensues, which kills 2 people, and the next day, a shovel is thrown over the wall so somebody can bury the corpses. Wife responds to this, but is made fun of by the announcer, making her walk in circles. In her frustration, she picks up the shovel and flips off the confused announcer. As a representative of Ward 1, the doctor requests that each ward bury one body and asks for fair sharing of the food ration. But Ward 3 King interrupts and argues with him. Meanwhile, in Ward 1, Thief becomes weak from the infection. As wife tries to comfort him, he tells her he knows she can see, so wife leaves. Desperate for medical help, Thief tries to escape but gets shot. Suddenly, Ward 3's King talks over the PA system and announces he's controlling the food system and that the people need to pay to eat. Later, chaos ensues, but an armed Ward 3 King shoots in the air and forces everyone to give their valuables in exchange for food. Back in Ward 1, wife collects the valuables to be given for food. Wife decides to keep a pair of scissors and hangs them by the television. In Ward 3, Doctor realizes that Ward 3 King's accountant is a normal blind person and not infected with white sickness, so he argues with him. When they receive only 2 boxes of rations instead of 3, he lectures them, but Ward 3 King interrupts and points a gun at him, making him retreat. Back in Ward 1, Doctor tells everyone to share since they lack enough food rations. And seeing the struggle of everyone, Doctor becomes frustrated. So, Sunglasses Girl comforts him and tells him that he did everything that he could. They hug and then have sex. Afterward, Doctor regrets his decision, but while dressing up, the wife enters the room and she tells Sunglasses Girl she can actually see. After a week or so, Ward 3 King talks to the PA and announces for everyone to bring women in exchange for food. The people in Ward 1 argue amongst themselves if anyone wants to volunteer, but nobody wants to, so they ask Doctor. Feeling broken, Doctor tells them that he doesn't want his wife to go, but it's not up to him to decide for anyone. Suddenly, one woman volunteers and wife follows suit. Others follow too, including the first blind man's wife. The Ward 3 men arrive and tell the 9 women to do double duty since there's only a few of them. Afterward, the women offer themselves to the men, and Ward 3 King forces himself on wife. Meanwhile, one girl gets beaten to death for being frozen out of fear. Later, the women bring the dead girl into the Ward 1 and clean her. The next day, the men of the Ward 3 gather women from Ward 2. To prevent the boy from hearing this, wife distracts him, but the accountant mocks them, making the boy hear the situation. Enraged, wife tells him there were only 8 women now because one of them died, which shocks the accountant, making him leave. Later, wife goes to Ward 3 carrying the pair of scissors she set aside. Accountant notices her as she approaches Ward King 3, who's having sex with another woman. Suddenly, she stabs Ward King 3 in the neck, and he screams in agony as the men become alerted. The accountant gets the gun and shoots her randomly, threatening her as she flees to the other women and leads them to escape. As the women get away, the accountant screams, saying they won't be getting more food, but a fuming wife threatens in return, saying every day they go without food, one of their men will die. The powerless accountant then retreats. Back in Ward 1, wife cries and tells Doctor she killed Ward 3 King. He tells her there'll be a war, but she doesn't care. Later, Ward 1 starts barricading their doors. Some of the men think whoever killed the leader should be offered as a peace offering. This frightens wife, but Eye Patch Man puts his hand on her shoulder and riles up everyone to claim the food for themselves. Doctor tells them those who don't want to fight should just leave without letting anyone know as he devises a plan for the fight. While everyone counts off, wife interrupts and tells them she can see 12 of them. Everyone is shocked. One woman from Ward 1 goes to Ward 3 in secret and sets the curtains on fire. As Ward 1 approaches to fight, they smell smoke, and they see the men in Ward 3 panic as they desperately try to put out the flames. Hopeless, accountant shoots himself. Meanwhile, wife leads everyone to the exit as the flames devour the facility. Wife screams at the guards to ask for help, but realizes they've been abandoned and can freely roam the entire city. Later, wife leads the doctor, Eye Patch Man, Sunglasses Girl, First Blind Boy, and his wife as they trek about an abandoned, vermin-filled city. She leaves the group in an empty restaurant to look for food, so Doctor volunteers to come with her. And while they're walking, Doctor tells wife he misses her, but she doesn't respond, still disgusted by his infidelity. They then go inside to a supermarket, and Doctor stays at the entrance. Wife then goes to the basement, finds large stocks of foods, and gather them. As she heads out with bags, the infected come at her, desperate for food. As they overpower her, she screams and alerts Doctor, wrapped in clothing, who fell asleep at the entrance. Doctor pushes the crowd away, grabs wife, and the two escape into the city. Exhausted, wife rests on a church's staircase as Doctor comes back to grab the clothes. Wife cries as she sees a corpse getting eaten by stray dogs. One dog approaches her and licks her tears. And as she pets it, rain begins to pour, so she heads inside the church. Doctor comes back with the clothes, and the two, along with the dog, head back to the restaurant. Meanwhile, the rest of the group bathe in the rain. Inside the restaurant, everyone is grateful that they have a leader with vision. She decides to lead them to their house, and when they arrive, wife welcomes them into their home. Eye Patch Man is grateful and jokes that if he had become a burden, the couple should just kick him out and he'll wander off like an elephant. The Sunglasses Girl pokes at him, saying that he's not an elephant, but plenty of a man. Everyone laughs. As the women bathe, they joke around, laugh, and have a good time. The group then gather at a dinner table, delighted to finally eat good food and drink clean water. They make a toast to the new family as they created, including the dog. Later, Doctor and wife, who seems to have forgiven him, make love, and he tells her that in those moments is when he truly sees her beautiful face. The next morning, while wife pours coffee for the first blind man, he suddenly regains his vision. Ecstatic, he tells everyone, giving them hope that they'll regain theirs too. Meanwhile, an emotional wife looks up at the clear white sky on the balcony. She thinks she's going blind, but as she looks down, she sees the beautiful cityscape. So that's the end of the 2008 sci-fi drama Blindness. What do you think would happen to the world if everyone became blind? Comment your answers down below, and of course, if you enjoyed the recap, give a like to the video and subscribe to the channel, as well as hitting that juicy notification bell. Also, you can check out our other videos on other recap movies. Until next time, folks, we'll see you later.